Hi everyone, welcome to day 1 of 12 days of Christmas cards. I'm Justine and we're here to make a really fun card today.
To start out this card, I'm going to take a 11 by 4 1/4 piece of Kraft cardstock that is scored in the middle so I can make a top folding card. I'm not 100% sure if this is going to work out with not a lot of bleed through, so I might end up having to put something on the inside back of this card, or I might have to just cut this out in the end and attach it to an actual Kraft card base. But other than that, I'm going to experiment and see how it works. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this Hero Arts Poinsettia and Berries stamp set. It's an older set that I have on hand, and I think it's really beautiful. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some, it's not the stickiest stamp anymore, I have to say, probably my fault. So I'm just going to put some non-permanent adhesive on the back of that so it'll stick to my stamp press properly. And I'm going to use some Versamark ink. I'm just going to layer that on there nice and good. Okay. And I'm going to stamp that in the corner, kind of off center of my card. Okay. I'm going to keep stamping it. I'm going to create sort of a background with it. I'm not going to overlap them though, because that's not the look that I'm going for. I'm just going to stamp this one just slightly on the bottom, nothing major. Okay, and then I'm going to take just a piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to put some white embossing powder onto my card front. Now normally I would use my embossing bag and make sure that there's no static, but I kind of forgot. So hopefully there's no static on this. And if so, I can remove it with a paintbrush afterwards. Yeah, I think that turned out just fine. Set that off to the side, and I'm just going to heat emboss that, and I just want to make sure that my gun is really hot. I'm going to put some adhesive back on there, and as well as the berries, and we're going to stamp those in just a second. But what I do need to do is I need to create a mask. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this poinsettia stamp set once again. I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to stamp this on there. And I need it stamped one more time, but as you can see, my scrap paper isn't all that big, so I just want to make sure I have the area that I actually need to have stamped. Okay, so that side. Okay, and then I'm just going to do kind of the half imprint on there, because I don't need the full mask for the second set. And I'm just going to cut those out really quick. I'm all finished cutting these out, and remember, if you are mass producing this card, it is totally possible, because all you have to do really is you can really use these masks over and over again. So you don't need to cut those individually out for each card. That wouldn't make any sense. Alright, so I'm just going to cover these masks. I also put a little bit of a removable adhesive on those just to keep them nice and sticky. And I'm going to take my berries, which I think is a really, really cute stamp. Ink that up in Versamark ink. And I'm just going to place that kind of in the middle of those two. And then I'm going to take my leaf and do a couple of those as well. Remember, you don't need to use the whole leaf. You can just kind of play around with them and see what you get. So I'm going to remove those masks, add my white embossing powder again. Perfect. And heat that up. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color in my poinsettias. And I love the way that Copics look on Kraft paper. The only thing, my issue is I don't have a lot of reds. So I'm using R35 and R29 from Copics, and I'm using an R11 from Shinhan, which is another alcohol marker company that I really like. And for this one, I'm not going to put a ton of detail into the shading of it. I'm just going to do my best to give it a really good, nice look and nice coat of color. And you can wipe off any of the, I'm going to try and not get it onto the white because it will seep in. Okay, now that I'm finished coloring the poinsettias, I realized that there were a couple of spots where I accidentally, I got the marker on the actual white embossing powder. Now, if you're picky like me, you might want to fix that. I'm going to wait until the card actually dries and the ink is all dried and everything like that before I go in and do anything about that, because I don't want the embossing powder sticking onto the actual flower. Alright, so I'm just going to color in the leaves and then we're finished that part of the color. Alright, I'm going to be using YG95 and YG97, more the YG97. As I said, it's not exactly Copic paper, craft paper. You can use it, but for blending, it can get a little bit difficult. So I'm going to do my very best in this one to not actually get anything on the embossing powder. Okay, and I really am liking the way that that turned out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zap it quick with my heat gun, make sure everything is dry, and then I'm going to go over some of the white embossing powder again with my embossing pen, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the inside of to add a little bit more texture to the actual flowers. Alright, we should be good to go now with those flowers. So what I'm actually doing is taking a Versamark pen, and actually, as I'm doing this, it's taking off the alcohol ink. How cool is that? But I'm just going to do that then instead. Found a new trick. Okay, perfect. That works out really well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to add a little bit of silver to my artwork here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my markers. I have two silver metallic markers. I'm going to see which one I like better. I have one from Cricut and one from Close to My Heart. So let's see what kind of effect those give off. And I color two of the bigger berries. Okay, there's actually not that much of a difference. Okay, so I'll finish that. And now I wanted to add a little bit of something to the flowers, like a little bit of sparkle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Versamark marker, I'm going to end up covering it with embossing powder Sticky by Ranger. And then I'm going to use some of Tim Holtz Clear Rock Candy Distress Glitter. So I'm just going to kind of make a couple of lines on the poinsettia leaves. And I kind of want to work quickly. I'm not sure. I haven't used this Versa marker a lot, and so I'm not 100% sure how quickly it would actually dry. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't dry out on me. Take a scrap paper. And I wanted to make sure I took another scrap paper than the white that I just used, because if by chance there's some leftover embossing powder from the white, it's going to mix into the sticky, and we don't want that because this actually dries clear. And I've done that before. Lesson learned. Okay, now I'm going to take the other side of this, and I'm going to throw some distress glue, or I'm going to melt this and throw some distress glitter on it, sorry. All right, I'm gonna throw the rest of my glitter in here. I really love Tim Holtz Distress Glitter. They're a little bit on the pricier side, usually somewhere between $4 and $5 for the tube, but really the tube's gonna last you forever, and I only have a couple of colors. And what I really like about it is usually it doesn't really flake off too much once you kind of tap it a couple times. It doesn't actually get everywhere, and so I really like that about it. And so I really like the way that that turned out. I think it looks really pretty, and just gives that card an extra something. All right, so now it's time to put my sentiment on my card and call it a day. And I just wanted to mention I'm also using the super fine detail embossing powder. I find that if you don't use super fine embossing powder on sentiments, they don't turn out all that pretty. I'm just making a mess with my embossing powder. I really need bloopers on these videos. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the card. This is what it looks like. I think it looks gorgeous. I'm super happy with it. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post them on the comment section. Please comment below. Please click the like button. It helps YouTube to find out that people actually like watching these videos. And so that would help me out a lot. Thanks so much. Bye.